guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's episode is all about how I clean and take care of my makeup brushes. A lot of you have been asking me about how I kind of maintain specifically like natural haired brushes kind of between those hard washings, you know, with like actual water and soap. So I thought I would make this video and just sort of go over what I do. So if you're interested, then just keep on watching. So I tried filming this video in my bathroom and it just didn't work. It's my bathroom is like long and narrow, and so I couldn't get like the right angle for the camera and then actually get lighting in there. It was just a mess. But anyway, I figured this was going to be good enough. I'll just show you exactly what I do without the actual water. So I'm going to be talking about natural haired brushes along with synthetic haired brushes. When it comes to synthetic haired brushes, I just feel like I basically follow the same rules. I just don't have to be quite as precious about it as I am with natural haired brushes. So first, let's talk about daily maintenance when it comes to natural and synthetic haired brushes that I use for powder products. All I do for natural haired brushes, here is a Hakuhodo eye brush. This is a J5523. What I will do is I will take a microfiber towel. This one's pretty dirty. You can see I've used it. And this one happens to have like little ridges on it, which I like. It just makes me feel like it's a little bit more effective. All I'll do is wipe the brush on the towel back and forth very gently, no big deal, and you'll see that some pigment comes off onto the towel. And as soon as basically I get to a section where I don't feel like any pigment is coming off, then I feel like I'm done. And for brushes that are flat, so ones with like a pinched ferrule, what I will do is I'll just go back and forth. Here is another one with a pinched ferrule. This is horsehair, I believe. This is natural haired, and I'm gonna go back and forth. For natural hair brushes that have a round ferrule, you can feel free to go back and forth as well, but sometimes I find a little bit more effective if I just go in a small circular motion, and I'll go from like one clean spot to another clean spot on the towel, and I find that that releases enough powder. And I find, like most things, if you do it immediately after you use it, it's the most effective. If I let my brushes sit around, let's say I've done my makeup and I let them sit there, and then the next day I go to my brushes and I'm like, oh man, these are dirty, and then I try and clean them, this is, you know, fairly effective again, but it's not going to be quite as effective as if I just did them right away. So I really try and make a note of doing it right after I'm done, kind of like I'll use this one brush and I'll feel like I'm done with it, and I'll just have this towel sitting on my vanity and I'll just like really quickly just run it over and then put it away. So for synthetic hair brushes, I do exactly the same thing. I'll use a microfiber towel and I'll follow the same rules. If it has a round ferrule, I feel comfortable being able to kind of wiggle it around in a circular motion. If it's pinched or if it's flat, I just like to go back and forth. Now, if I feel like my synthetic hair brush is maybe just a little bit too grimy, what I will do is use a brush cleaner like this. This is like a spray-on brush cleaner, and what it will do is it'll kind of sanitize and it'll kind of do like a spot cleaning for your brush. So this happens to be Beauty So Clean. This is the Wipeout brush cleaner. I've used a whole bunch of different ones. I've used Cinema Secrets, I've used Parian Spirit, and now I've been using this one. This one has alcohol in it as the first ingredient, so it is going to be antibacterial, which I like. And so I feel comfortable enough using it with synthetic haired brushes. Some people may think it's a little bit too harsh. Some people don't want to use alcohol on their brushes at all. I try not to use this on my natural haired brushes too often. But with synthetic haired brushes, I will use this every day if I feel like I have to. I'll just simply spray it. I'll let it sit, you know, just for a couple of seconds, and then I'll do the same thing. I'll go to my towel and I will kind of run it over, and then what I'll do is wipe the whole ferrule off, and then it's good to go. Now, when it comes to using something like this and natural hair bristles, I won't spray it directly onto the brush. What I will do is I will take a paper towel and I will spray the paper towel. I'll make sure it's pretty damp. So I don't know, what was that, like 6 or 7 spritzes? And then I will run the brush over the damp paper towel, but ever so gently. You'll end up seeing that it gets off a little bit more product, and if you want to sanitize your brush, unfortunately you do have to use something like alcohol, which is harsh, but I find this to be the most gentle. I feel like as long as I don't spray it directly on the brush and I just kind of do so very, very gently. My natural hair brushes have held up really well doing this. So with natural hair brushes and powder products, about once a week. And with synthetic hair fibers, same idea, but I do feel comfortable using this spray with synthetic fibers more often. So if you just want to like just kind of keep your brushes super duper clean, you can use this more often, I think. I haven't had any problems with that. Let's talk about daily maintenance for brushes that I use with cream or liquid products. So with synthetic haired brushes, I will probably take these over to the sink and give them a wash, and I'll talk about how I wash them at the sink a little bit later on, but I will probably do that with a synthetic brush almost every time I use it, if not maybe every other time. And if not, what I will do is use this cleaner with it after every wash. The same with natural haired brushes. I will use this cleaner with natural haired brushes. I will do the same thing. I will spray a paper towel and then I'll go in with the brush and I'll clean it off that way. If I feel like it's just a little bit too grubby, like that is not enough, what I will do is actually spray directly onto the brush. Even if it's natural hair, but if it's been dealing with cream products, I feel like you really want to kind of get that off. And I'll just let it sit there for like a couple seconds and then I'll do the same thing. I'll just gently run it over a paper towel and get the excess cream off. Generally, I'm talking about foundation when I'm talking about cream liquid products, and I feel like, you know, there's a lot of product and, you know, you've been buffing it into your skin and that ends up working it really down into the bristles, and that's why I really like to go in with this either directly or indirectly. But if I've used a brush like this and I've just maybe applied some cream highlighter or something, really just wiping it off is really good enough. You don't have to get too crazy. So it really depends on, you know, you can kind of take a look at your brush, like how much product is sort of like caked in there and like soaked in there. If it's a lot, obviously go in with something like this. If it was a clean brush, you just sort of, you know, did a little highlight and that was it, just wipe it off. That'll be fine. And then I just put it away. So now let's talk about washing over at the sink. So I think I inhaled some of this cleaner. So over at the sink, I like to use warm water, and what I will do is I will wet the bristles first. And if you're putting your brush underneath the running water, you don't ever want to hold the brush this way and have the water kind of running into the brush and down into the ferrule. You want to kind of hold the brush in the same direction that the water is coming in, and you just want to angle it so that the water is running down the bristles. You just don't want it to get into the ferrule. Of course, some of it's going to get into the ferrule, but you want to minimize that. So I'll wet the bristles this way. And then there are two cleaners that I like to use. This is a solid one. This is the Clean Apothecary Brush Shampoo. I've used the Beauty Blender one, I've used the Sephora one. They're all pretty decent. This one happens to be my favorite. This was actually gifted to me by a friend, and this one I actually like the most. So all of these solid cleansers kind of come in a tub, and then you're gonna have the soap inside. Once I have my brush wet, I will dip it into the soap and I'll run it in there gently, and you'll see it kind of lather up. And when it comes to natural hair brushes, I will take it in my palm and I will, again, if it's a round ferrule, I'll go in circles. If it is a pinched ferrule, I'll go back and forth. And I'll just do that until I feel like I see like the pigmentation or any of the powders kind of wash away from the brushes. And then I will go and I will rinse them in the same way. I'll hold them, here's the water running, I'll hold them down in the same direction that the water is running in, and I will just hold it underneath the running water. And then what I'll do sometimes is just put my finger underneath the bristles to splay them out and really kind of get those bristles, you know, open and get the water in there and really wash them out. And then what I will do is I'll actually fling the brush. It gets messy in my bathroom. I'll fling the brush because that actually helps shape them, but I will fling the brush and then I will squeeze out any excess water, again, always facing down. So I'll squeeze it out that way. And then what I'll do is I'll lay them flat on a towel for the time being. I'll let you know what I do after in just a second. But that is the solid brush cleanser. I also use Johnson's baby shampoo. This is something I think Makeup by Mario kind of touted as his brush shampoo, and it's great because it is, you know, it's fragrance free, it's very gentle, but it does clean, and it's very inexpensive. And I love the way this baby shampoo smells. So I use this, And if I do end up using this, what I'll do is kind of squeeze some out into like a little cup, and I'll just dip my wet brush into that and do the same thing. And then when it comes to synthetic haired brushes, again, I feel like I can be a little bit rougher with them. So I actually have this Real Techniques. It's like a little hand, like a little rubber hand thing. It has like a little texture on there. And so with synthetic brushes, again, I feel like I can be rough with them. So I'll use it with something like this. I'll wet them, I'll use whatever cleaner I'm using, either the solid one or the baby shampoo, and then I'll run them over this little hand mat. And then I'll rinse them the same way. And then temporarily I will lay them down on a towel. So once I've cleaned all of my brushes, and there's a whole pile of them on my towel, I just do it this way because it's like assembly line style. It's just the fastest for me. It's tedious enough to have to wash your makeup brushes. So anyway, I leave them all on the towel for the time being. And then once I'm done, what I will do is then I'll hang them up to dry. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can do this. I've seen people use like a clipboard. They'll put a rubber band around the clipboard, and then they'll just sort of like stick the brushes there, and then, you know, they'll just stand the clipboard up against the wall and the brushes are hanging down. But the point is really to make sure that your brushes are hanging upside down while they dry, not flat. Definitely not like this. Again, you want to make sure that you're keeping everything out of the ferrule area. So I went and I purchased these Sigma Dry and Shape towers, and the point of these is so that you can use these kind of like elastic things at the bottom to help shape your brushes. So what you can do is kind of like run your brush up underneath here, and then the pink part allows you to kind of snap the handle in, and then so they're just hanging down, and this can help kind of like shape your bristles. I find these to be a little bit too tight, and not that they hinder the drying or whatever, but if your brush hairs aren't exactly the height of these elastics, you get like this indentation. So anyway, I basically stopped using the elastics on here. So I have two sizes. I have the Dry and Shape that allows for like much larger handles. This is definitely more like, you know, for face brushes. And then it has smaller slots up here for like eye brushes and things. And then this one is sort of like smaller. It's basically just for eye brushes or like thin handled brushes. So what I do is all my brushes are laying on the towel, and I will just I'll hold it like this, and I will simply just stick my brushes into these slots here, and I won't bother using this. This just allows me to hang them upside down quickly and easily. I just press them into this pink part, which is like rubberized, and they stay put, and that's it. So I just go around, I fill them all up, I find the best ones. Obviously some fit better than others, and that's how I dry them. But you don't need this. I love this thing. I think it's really cool. It doesn't take up a lot of space because it's round. It sort of sits in like the corner of my counter in my bathroom, and you can take it apart really easily if you aren't using it and you don't have a lot of space maybe on your counter. You can kind of like untwist and just take apart the pieces, save the box, and maybe store it underneath your sink or something. So I do like these things, but again, you don't need them. The point really is to make sure that your brushes are drying upside down. So then once my brushes are completely dry, it usually takes like overnight. I just want to make sure that they're completely dry. What I will do is I have these brush guards. They're like these little nets, basically. I bought like a pack of, I don't know, like 50 off of Amazon. I'll link it down below if you guys are interested. They're very, very inexpensive, and they stretch, and it's basically like one size fits all. So what I will do is once the brush is dry, I'll just run this from the handle up. I'll just bring it up over the bristles. I'll leave a little bit of room up here, and that's it. I was watching Stephanie Nicole's video on how she takes care of her brushes. She uses something like aloe, like an aloe gel, to kind of help reshape her brushes. I don't do that. It takes enough effort for me to like even wash my brushes. So once I get to this point, I'm just shoving them into these brush guards, and they're pretty long too. So you buy a pack of 50, and what you can do, especially for the eye brushes, you can just snip these in half, and you have two from one, and you can just slip them on top. But I like these because it keeps the brushes not only in shape, but it keeps them clean a little bit longer. especially if I've washed brushes that maybe I don't use that often. It gets dusty in my room and they're just sort of sitting around. So I like it for that. And again, because they stretch, they will really literally go over any size brush. And then at that point I just put them away. So I keep my brushes either, you know, in a cup or in a lip gloss holder, which is what you guys see behind me. I'll just kind of put them in there, or I will put them in Muji drawers and I'll just lay them flat in the Muji drawers. And I like the drawers, and I happen to like the Muji drawers or leaving them in drawers that I can kind of take with me, because when I film, a lot of the time I will just pull out the entire Muji drawer and put it on my table here if I'm going to be doing like a demo or something. So this is what I mean. Here's the Muji drawer, and it just pulls right out of the little plastic stack, and then all my brushes are just sitting here, and I don't like have to pick a bunch out of like a big cup or something. And then one last thing I want to mention, I was watching a YouTuber, I believe her name is Shona Scott. She is a makeup artist, and she was talking about deep cleaning her brushes. I think primarily it was for brushes that are used with cream and liquid products. You know, after a while they just get really gunky, even after you've washed them, hard washed them or whatever. If you find that there's just a lot of buildup, and this will probably happen after a couple of years if you're not a makeup artist. You know, if you're just doing makeup on yourself, you'll probably only see like a really hardcore buildup after years. Once you see that, you feel like your brush just isn't clean no matter how much you wash it, what you can do is actually use alcohol. And that, again, is not something you want to use often, but that's the only thing that's going to really break down all of that gunk in there and really sanitize your brushes. And all you have to do is sort of stick your brush into some alcohol, something like 99% alcohol, something that's like super up there is what she recommends. You just dip it in there quickly and then just rub it on a towel and then rinse it off, and then you're good. So it's actually a very quick cleaning. I will try and find her video where she talks about this deep cleaning, and I'll link it down below. But her name is Shona Scott, and she's awesome, actually. If you are not subscribed to her, definitely subscribe to her. She does the best demos, and she has the best accent and the best speaking voice. I love listening to her. So anyway, that's it. That's all I do for my brushes. Really nothing too intense. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys do. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.